Hey guys, this is Phoenix. I am back with another episode of my Minecraft modding tutorials. Today we are going to be doing a uh, configuration handler, so we can get rid of that on that list. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is actually build the configuration file, and the easiest way to do that would be making a new package and class file to be able to handle that. So we're going to go ahead and create a new package, and we're going to call this, well, handlers. Underneath of handlers, we're going to create a new Java class called configuration handler. Configuration handler. And then underneath of this, we are going to get started. So the first thing we should probably do is state that okay, so there is a class already built in for configuration. Trying to remember if that is. I want to say that configuration is part of the Minecraft Forge. So, yeah, let's get started. Public static configuration is, yes, Minecraft Forge common config. And we're going to call it a configuration. Then after this, we also need to know what configurations we want. We're going to put a dummy one in here for the next thing we're going to do, which is actually the update check. So, well, one configuration that we want to do is a boolean, so true or false. Public static update check, I guess is the best thing to call it. We need to put a boolean before that. Boolean update check. And we're going to have a default to true, so yes, it does check for updates. After this, we need an initialization phase for this. Something that can just be called. You can really call it anything. But this is what's going to be referenced when we're initializing it. So I like to call anything that, like any class that I call that in the main class, I like to call the initialization or the register. We don't have to register a configuration handler, so we are literally just going to say, hey, init, why not? So public static void, we're going to call an init, and we're going to feed it a string, and that string is going to be the configuration directory. So string config directory. So config.dir. Then here, what we need to say is, hey, if configuration does not equal anything, so null, we want it to find a file path. So we're going to call for a file java.io. We're going to call it path is equal to a new file using the config directory plus okay, so you don't need any config directory at all, really. Like this is basically all you need, unless you're adding. But then we also want to do our, because this is just going to find that directory. So we do want to do plus reference, and we want to pull our mod ID. We want to keep everything in that, and then we want to add .cfg to the end of that. So inside of a string .cfg. Now I actually do have a mod called Phoenix Tech. Well, yeah, that's actually it. I have a mod called Phoenix Tech, and it is a modular system, and so I wanted to keep all my config files in one place. If you have this and you want to put it inside of a another directory, you can actually add in here you can do quote backslash, and then you can add folder name inside of the configuration directory. If you want to put it in a further one, you just backslash, and you can keep adding to that file structure by doing that. Let's say that you have a mod ID where it's tutorial mod, and you want to get rid of the tutorial. What you can actually do is, or if you want to get rid of mod, you can say on the end of your mod ID dot substring is going to remove an index. You're going to want to throw 0 in there so it doesn't remove anything from the front. And then the end index would be 3 to get rid of MOD. And that would just come up saying tutorial. That's how you remove strings from the end of it. But anyway, on to the rest of what we were doing. After you have this line, you want to actually call configuration and assign it a new configuration, since that never got initialized up here. Normally you'd end up having something along the lines of equals new configuration, but when you go and add configuration, you actually have to feed it a file path. So if I were to call configuration down here, now that we actually have a file path confirmed and set up, we can say configuration equals a new configuration and semicolon in the end with path. I have no idea why that's throwing an error. Requires a boolean? Oh, right, my bad. Equals equals when you're doing it in an if statement. Fail at life, my bad. Next thing we need to do is, okay, so we've confirmed the file location and everything. This is good. The next thing we want to do is, well, load the configuration. So we can go and throw that in there. It's going to throw errors, and the reason why is because we don't have the configuration or the load configuration method. It doesn't know what to do. So that's pretty easy. What we want to do is we want to create a new public. No, let's make it private. Private just means it can't be accessed from outside. Private, but because this is universal, it's a static, we should do a static here. And void. We'll call for the load configuration here, since that's what we're missing. And inside of this, we are going to say, okay, how are we going to assign this? What is our default information going to be? How are we going to do these things? Well, first off, we want to set up update check. So update check, well, we could say true equals true or false, but that's not really pulling it from anywhere. So the way that we have it set up is that we want to pull it from a configuration file. So if we say configuration dot, we get a whole list of stuff. Well, the first one, I guess, is we're calling for a boolean. We might want to just go ahead and grab the boolean. Okay, so what is it going to display as? Since the first option, the first thing it wants is display name. Well, I guess we could, I don't know, check for updates. Great, okay, we have a name. Well, we don't have any category. How are we going to do that? Well, let's see what configuration offers us. Well, it gives us a couple categories. Well, okay, I guess we can go with general. But what if we didn't want to do general? What if we wanted our own configuration category? Well, let's just go ahead and import that back in real quick, category general. Now in IntelliJ, there's a way of getting around quickly. If I control and then click, it'll take me directly to where it is. Okay, so it looks like the configuration manager uses a standard string for the category. Fail at life. I apologize. So let's go do that right now, since we want to have a right here below public static here, we're going to do private. Or no, we should probably do public since we can call that from somewhere. So public static string capital S string and CATEGORY category underscore update check equals a string for update check. Why not? Okay, well, let's not use this category. Let's go ahead and use our category. If I spell category right, which I did not. C-A, there we go. Category, update check. What's next? Well, we need a default value. Okay, well, I guess that's true. Alright, and we need a comment. Well, what will we put there? How about allow this mod to check for updates. Period. That seems about right. Okay. So if our configuration has changed, we should probably go and set it or go and save it. That's all good and all. But what if we change the configuration while we're actually playing the game? Well, we need a way to be able to do that. So that would be an event. So what we need to do is we need to subscribe it. Not suppress it. We need to subscribe the event. And we're going to call public void on configuration. Configuration. Wow. I feel it, pellet life. On configuration change event. We are going to say, well, I need to access the configuration changed event, right? Configuration. Configuration change. It's just config changed, isn't it? Config changed event, yes. On configuration changed event. If the event mod ID dot is equal ignore case reference dot mod ID. So what we're doing here is saying, hey, check the event for the mod ID. Did the event did the configuration and change for our mod ID? If yes, then go ahead and run load configuration again, which will go through and check, hey, did it change? Save it. So that's great. We have that going for us. And the last thing I like to do is I actually like to have a git configuration. So, okay. we're going to do public static. We're going to call for configuration, and we're going to get configuration. And we're going to say, hey, return our configuration with the semicolon after the configuration. Okay, so that's it for the configuration file here. The next thing we should probably do is make random noises. All right, let's go back to our tutorial mod, and this is actually something that's going to happen inside of the main configuration file. Is we are going to do a configuration handler .init. So we're going to do, configuration handler. Sorry, I'm kind of going with racking my brain here. Init. It calls for configuration directory, so I guess we should probably give it that. String event dot get mod configuration directory dot to string, and feed it the configuration directory. And then we should probably register that other event as well, just for when it checks to see if we have a configuration change in game. So fml common handler dot instance dot, I believe it's bus, register. We're going to register our configuration handler. And that should be it. That is the entire configuration handler built. Let's see, what time are we running on right now? 17 minutes. Let's go ahead and actually do the GUI handler for the configuration as well. So let's go ahead and open up what are we gonna do? New package. We're gonna call this client. And underneath of client, we're going to create a new package for the GUI since this only appears client side. And then underneath of this, we're going to create a new Java class called GUIFactory. So there's our GUIFactory. Now our GUIFactory does exactly one thing: keep track of our GUIs. So I guess the first thing we should probably do is implement our GUIFactory, the default GUIFactory, the interface for the GUIFactory, imod GUIFactory. And Alt enter, implement methods, bring them all in. We're going to need them anyway. So next up, we got classes and stuff here. We are going to be using a class, and the class that we're going to be making is our mod GUI config. So we're going to, instead of saying return null, we're going to say return mod GUI config dot class. And we're going to hit Alt enter and create class, and we want to create it in this folder. So now we have a mod GUI config class. Underneath this, we actually want to change our GUI screen from GUI screen to GUI config. And we're going to let it implement these methods. We'll just bring that in. Holy crap, that's a lot of stuff. That's not what I wanted to do at all. Okay, we're going to leave that blank, and we're actually going to make our own because we're actually going to be running our own super using GUI screen. So that's going to be getting used again here. So we're going to do a public mod GUIconfig, and we're going to call for GUI screen, and we're going to call this a GUI screen. And then we are going to give it a super, and underneath of super we are going to feed it a bunch of information, like literally a bunch of information. We are going to give it a GUI screen. We are going to give it a new config config element. Is it config? Yeah, there we go. Config element. We don't need that, but we do need this. We're going to call for our configuration handler, and we're going to call for get configuration dot get category. We're going to call for our category general. So we're going to say configuration handler dot category update. And then after the two of these, we're going to add another one for dot get child element, comma, next line. We're going to call for our mod ID, reference dot mod ID, next line, so comma, enter, configuration ID, we don't need it, or boolean all request world reset. All requires world reset, it doesn't, false. And the next one is all require Minecraft reset, it doesn't, so false. And not a semicolon, another comma. The last thing we need to do is give it a GUI config. So GUI config dot get the abridged config path, when we're going to give it configuration handler dot get configuration dot to string semicolon. That was a lot of nonsense, but it's all necessary stuff. Just do what I do and you'll be good. What are you trying to fix? Try to generify mod GUI config dot. No. This is fine. Oh, I guess I can static import this. Yeah, let's just static import that. Alright, so in order to do that, you're going to take this top one here, cut it, and you're going to get a whole bunch of errors, and there we go. You're still going to get a whole bunch of errors. We're going to paste it down here. We're going to change, after import, we're going to type out static space. Now we're going to get a whole bunch more errors, dot star, and then we're going to come over here and delete that because we don't need it. We did need that, and we're going to delete that. No, right, that was a comma. Comma, not that. Okay, every button but the right one. There we go. So that shortens that a little bit. So after this, all we really have to do is register our GUI factory. And we can do that by going back to our tutorial mod, main class file, coming to the end of here, doing a comma, and saying, hey, so we need a new input for GUI factory. Your default is nothing, but we're going to do reference dot GUI underscore factory underscore class. So that's what we want here. We're going to copy that. We're going to go back to our reference. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to do a new public static final string, and we're going to call for our GUI factory class, and we're going to say that is equal to com.rio dev dot tutorial mod dot not proxy client CLIEN client dot GUI dot GUI factory and semicolon. And column right tutorial mod. Okay. So this is the line that we had to put there, and we've already done it here. So we've registered GUI factory. As far as the system is concerned, that GUI should be working, and we can actually test this pretty easily if we set up the mod ID real quick, or the MC mod info. We're going to go over this later in depth, because I'm going to show you how to customize the colors included. But for now, all we're going to do is come over here to mod ID, and we're going to change this to tutorial mod. And it does need to be case sensitive according to your mod ID. So you can copy that and bring it down here into here. And then there's the example placeholders, all this good stuff, and blah, blah. Okay, but anyway, this is what's that. The MC mod info is required to activate that type of handler. So now if we go ahead and test this real quick. After it loads. Okay, so if we go to mods, we should actually have a working MC mod info file. But example placeholder mod. Okay, so the disable button works, but we are missing something. Let me double check the folder here, which is our D drive, programming, runtime, and this one, configs. We apparently don't have our thing working at all. Forge, what are you doing to me? Okay, this one. Stuff happens sometimes. It's unavoidable. Let me actually cheat and go back to my other mod here. This is getting that. And then from there it comes over to here to public static init and gets the file path. Maybe this is why it's glitching up there. File config directory. So it's grabbing this, which I already fed it. Then it's doing a reference.mod ID. Do I need a backslash here? Is that what's going on? Let me double check. Yep, there it is. Failing at life. As usual. Okay, so what we wanted to do was add quotes with a backslash or a slash in it in general. And then we want to add another plus at the end of that. That was a fail on my part, and I apologize. Everything else looks okay there. tutorial mod. Let's check this. Okay. Event.mod configuration directory .toString configuration handler .init with configuration directory in there. FML common handler .instance .bus .register new configuration handler. Yeah, that's right. Did I not give it its GUI config? No, GUI factory is equal to the reference GUI factory class. Now, underneath the reference, we've assigned the GUI factory class as com. Oh, no, com. It was con. That's why it failed. And underneath of here, this is actually going to here. So that's working. Why are you a GUI screen? Oh, wait. Let me double check that. Oh, no, you're right. Okay. Alright, so now if we go and hit play, basically what it comes down to is don't mistype things. Yeah, now underneath the config we should actually have an actual configuration file form. There it is, tutorial mod. Allow this mod to check for updates. Default true. Check for updates, true. Now, if we wanted to, go to mods and tutorial mod. Now the configuration thing is here, but for some reason it's still not working right. Am I missing something there? You want to know what it is? The GUI configuration doesn't work with custom categories. That's easy to fix. Just change the category update to configuration. Nope. You're using the wrong configuration. Category general, just do general there, and then go back to here and change this one to configuration dot category general. And if you delete your tutorial mod and hit play this time, everything should work. Hopefully, at least. Yep, there it is. So the update GUI or the configuration GUI in game only works with the default vanilla categories. Doesn't work with your own custom categories. Food for thought. I never actually tried that before. But if I hit change that to false and I hit done, and then I open up the tutorial mod here, it's been changed to false. And showing you that this actually works, if I go into config, change this back to true, and hit done, and then click over here, it's actually changed that on the fly. So that's that. Everything's working there. Sorry about that. I kind of overlooked a few small little details there. But anyway, let's go back to here. So this isn't needed here. That can go away. But that's a configuration handler in a nutshell right there. It's not too bad, but it's also slightly annoying. But yeah, so racking it up over here, I'm just gonna do this so that everything lines up for you guys on this thing. Okay, so that's what we have so far for that. Now we'll just enter tab. That's pretty much our whole mod annotation right there. And we don't need these imports being shown, so we can minimize that. All of this has to go under pre-initialization. If we put it anywhere else and we try to do something with configuration before it has even loaded, it's not going to be useful for us at all. So this is always the first thing that should be initialized. And then everything else can initialize below that. So for instance, here we're going to be doing our update check. Yeah, that's going to be our update checker. So we've finished getting a configuration file running, and we have the GUI configuration file running. I think that is more than enough for this episode. It's been half an hour. Let's go ahead and end it here, and we'll resume with the update checker in the next episode. There are hundreds of different ways of doing an update checker. I'm going to show you the way that I do it, and that's because I have a little more control over what I want to do in general. Okay. So that's all we're going to do for today. I will see you in the next episode.